Alright, welcome back. Okay, so this 3D animation software, as you can see, Maya is well known for character animation and so on and so forth. Is very well known. They can have a very customized, bone systems and rigs, which will be very, it's widely used for movies and so on and so forth. Pixar uses Maya, and big companies use Maya, 3ds Max. It doesn't matter. End of the day, it's about how creative you can be. Yeah. So in here, if you want to do motion graphics and all that, you have to look into Mesh for motion graphics. So motion graphics in this is super cool. I will touch this later. Of course, you have Cinema 4D. It is well known for motion graphics. In Maya, they call it as Mesh. So Mesh is also something. I'll show you a little preview of what you can get. Yeah. So I'm just going to create something here. Alright, so you can see under the shelf here, I've got options, all this shelf, all the other tools that is for the mesh. So let's just show what we can do. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to poly modeling. I'm just going to create, say, a cone. Right. So if I pick this cone and then I can create an attribute. Right. I can distribute this as much as I can. Maybe. Let me check. So, okay, I'll tell you what, you know why I don't want to touch this now? Because it will confuse you a lot. Alright? So let's not touch this yet. But I will cover this for you guys, yeah, later. Let's focus on the character animation first, because that is more essential. Because once you can animate a character, this one is not a problem. Yeah, I'll give you a link on Mesh, what Mesh can do, and you will be wow of what Mesh can do. So yeah, you just have to type in Mesh Maya. Okay, as you can see, you can do all this. Okay, I'll share this link. I'll just click on this and see. This is Mesh. Okay, so I'm not going to just show this, let's not just play this, but what I can do is I'll share this in our Discord. You guys take time and watch this. Yeah, so this is what Mesh can do. Okay, so we're not going to touch Mesh at this point of time, but let me just cover up all this animation toolkits that is essential for us to kickstart our advanced animation. Yeah? Okay?
Okay, sir.
Alright. So, as you can see here, this is a timeline. Right? Timeline. You can have all the keyframes here. Every time that you create something like Adobe Animate and so on and so forth, it's the same thing. Yeah? And then you've got the range. Yeah, so this range is to squeeze and concentrate on specific range of keyframes that you want to alter, as well as you want to make it more smoother and so on and so forth. Yeah, along the way you will get used to this. All right, the numbers that you can see at this tiny little boxes that you can see here beside the range, the start of the range and the end of the range, is where you key in. This is the maximum of your keyframe. Yeah, so you can increase this as much as you can. you want. You can go up to 1000 frames, 5000 frames, it doesn't matter, right? And then the second one is where you are adjusting, right? The second tab here, the empty tab, you can see the highlight is, you see my cursor, yeah? That's where it states, okay, the range, which means you have squeezed or you have focused on certain timeline. Like how do you do it in After Effects? Similar, yeah? So yeah, if you're saying, you just want to concentrate on 5, okay? See that? Frame 5 to frame 46 alone. So you just focus on this. You get what I mean? So you can either squeeze it or you just have to hold with your left mouse button on this gray bar here. Yeah? You hold on it and just drag it to maximize or to decrease your range for view as well as for animation purpose. Alright? So pretty clear? And then you've got the character set. Okay, these are all for your characters and so on and so forth. We'll cover this as we proceed to the next stage, when once we have already obtained you guys have already obtained the character rig. Clear? Hello? Vinny is okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time to time answer. No, it's like I'm just talking to Vinny. So if you have any disruption in the connection and so on and so forth, please let me know. Yeah? Alright, moving.
Yes, sir.
You've got this animation layer. So this is a layer, a different set of layer. This is an addition, especially when you're looking at animation. The moment you click on animation workspace, there will be an additional layer for you. So which is the animation layer. So the animation layer, this is the common layer that we have been using for our 3D modeling, right? And then the animation layer is another additional layer. This is where you can alter the animation. So you have another layer. So say you have finished an animation and then you want to adjust the animation on top of it. So you have like an onion skin and so on and so forth, right? So you will adjust it on top of it. You maintain the original that you have already completed. You want to add on, you want to adjust the hands, for instance, if it goes wacky, and then you want to have this hands to be animated or to be altered with this animation, or you want to change the position, you can change the position via the animation layer. You can mix and match with animation layers and so on and so forth. So that's how animation works, the layers works, right? We will look into this even further. This is where you can also do as you can see here, there's weight, right? So this is where you can blend. So for instance, you pick an animation from a different rig, say you have finished a walk cycle, right? The character is walking. And then you've got another animation where the character is shooting, right? Character is shooting with the position and so on and so forth, right? So you only want to have the torso and above, right? The hands, the torso, and the hip animation alone. You don't want to have the hip, you don't want to have the leg movements and so on and so forth. So you can filter only that. You get what I mean? So you can even, you can blend it around and see how it works. You can have 2 clips to be blended in. You can do that as well. So yeah, you can blend for animation layer. For animation layer, that is one bit, but normally it's to alter. So the mixing comes later. I will show you the mixing stage, which means another window specific for animation. Alright, so as you can see here, you've got a tracks editor, and then you've got the dope sheet. You go to Windows, you go to animation editor, you've got the graph editor, which is super essential, like how you do it in After Effects is the same thing. Yeah, you've got the time editor and you've got the tracks editor. You've got this too. Yeah, so if you want to pull in any sound and so on and so forth, if I use tracks most of the time, okay, this is for soundtrack. You bring in soundtrack and so on and so forth in this tracks editor. Yeah, and then you've got another window here called time editor. See that? So you got 2. Why? Hang on, huh? Okay, it's backed here. So this is where you're doing composition. This is like Premiere. Okay, this time editor is practically by its own. Hang on, huh? It's a little bit iffy. Okay. Oh no. Okay. Make it small. Alright. So the screen is small, so bear with me. Alright. So in the time editor, this is where you have all the important contents. Like for instance, you have scenes after scenes. We call it as a scene. Say for instance, you want to have like face, and then one shot is face, one shot is full, close up, one shot is half shot, half body, full body, and so on and so forth, action based or whatever it is, right? So this is where you bring in the clips, and you can combine. As I just mentioned just now, if you want to filter few components, you don't want the animation, or you want to pick specific animation on a specific joint, this is where you do it. Alright, we will go through this later on, as when we have already identified or have already understood how the other tools work first, the basic first. Yeah, so one step at a time. You guys clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna talk about all this, so what we have and so on and so forth. So tracks editor, if you don't see any of this, you can reset this, you go back to your animation, blah blah blah. If it's not there, the graph editor is not displayed there, and so on and so forth. All you have to do is go back to graph editor, click on it, Windows, graph editor. So the graph editor is on, wait till it loads, right? So once it loads, you just drag it and drop it at this timeline here. Yeah, depending, the bigger space or bigger monitors that you have, the better it is for animation and modeling. Anything to do with 3D, best if you can get a bigger monitor. It's not that you cannot do with 15-inch and so on and so forth. It's a bit more tough. Yeah. So yeah. So that's that. Any questions? That's all.
No.
Pretty clear. All right. So once you finish this, of course, for this particular basics, right, you've got a couple of things. So first and foremost, what you can do is, I'm just going to show you an example of what you can do. Number one, before you start any animation, make sure that you have a floor. Again, this is created with a simple plane. Okay, define your floor first. If you know your floor, so you know where it's going to interact, or where is it going to be landing on, which surface, what platform it is, and so on and so forth. Okay, then you move to your simple ball here, right? So as you can see, you want to increase the size of the pivot, it's up to you, right? Then you know where is it going to bounce and which surface, where's your limitation, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's a couple of ways of doing things. Okay, so this week, just play around with this first. Okay, get to know the tools first, so no too much of pressure yet. But once I share the videos, then you will see, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So your task is, this week is to explore. Come next week, you're going to start animating. Right? We start off with a bouncing ball, then we will move on with the sack of flour, or probably straight away to the character. Sack of flour is good, but sometimes it's very tough. Yeah. So yeah, acting is number one. So you guys should not sit just in front of your machine and just do work alone. So do not expect miracles to happen. It's just working or playing with this tool. You have to act up, right? And you have to record your acting. Okay. So if possible, those who can make it to the class, please come for the class for acting during the acting period. All right. Can? So bring your laptops, bring your machines. Do not hope on those machines at this point of time. Eventually, you'll be able to, once they replace it, then it'll be super fast. They're going to replace it. Yeah. So just for the acting stage, come to the class. It's a lot more easier for me to explain during face-to-face. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I can explain further. You can see the entire movement of the bodies and so on and so forth, every component. If not, it will be just half all the time. Yeah. So when I explain, it will be a little tough. I mean, this is what your seniors experienced last semester. So we had fun with acting and so on and so forth, but because of limitations that could not see the acting, or I could not help so much. I could help to a certain degree, but I couldn't help 100%. Yeah, because it's face to face. It's more effective in terms of acting. All the other tools, no problem. Yeah, you've gone through with my class, so you should know the drill, and yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. All right, moving on. Any questions? Anyone confused? Can I? Yeah. So a couple of things that you can work with. Okay, normally when you're doing animation with this dude or any of this, objects, basic objects. Okay, what you should do is you always animate from the photographic cameras, which is the side, the front, right? So that will ensure the grids will help you. All right. To state, like for instance, this is the origin, right? You see the thick line, you all know this, right? So once you get your positioning correct, so it's easier for you. So the character doesn't, it plants on the floor rather than it get, sucked into the floor or it's floating. Make sense?
Yep.
Alright, cool. Alright. The 12 principles of animation you all are well versed with. How come?
Yep.
Right. Okay. You all have this book, Animation Animators Toolkit. Survival.
We don't have that book.
You don't have that book. Why? Why, man? Okay, I'll share the book. Yeah, I'll share the book with you guys. So it's a good book. I mean, it's been used over the years, decades, right? Until now, it's a very powerful book. Animators Survival. This book. Sorry? Yes. If you have cash, buy it. I mean, I have the ebook. If you guys want to save some, so use that. Understand it. Okay, this is practically the Bible, I would say. Yeah. Of course, learn the basics, then break the entire rules for you to make it a best. Make the best out of the best for your animation. Yeah? So now I'm going to hop on the theories now. Alright? So 12 principles is essential. Please try to understand that and then use it. Okay, first and foremost, what you should do in animation. In 2D animation, if you are given this ball, what would you do first? Sorry? What is it called? Now, 12 principles of animation, guys.
Squash and stretch, is it?
Pose to pose, yes, not stretch and squash. You haven't even done the basic yet.
I don't know.
How come? Okay, first and foremost, you need pose to pose. Why do you do pose to pose?
To know what the movement versus it, how it moves, basically.
Uh-huh. So what do you call that? To know the time. Timing. Correct? Wow. Guys, y'all have to refresh yourself, huh? I know it's the first day, but yes, 12 principles of animation is essential, huh? So pose to pose is to ensure that you get a good timing. Right? To make sure each and every postures or every actions you have already timed it out well enough. Okay? Then you do your once you get your timing. What? How did you all survive in 2D animation, guys? Wow.
Barely.
Now you all have to be profound with this. Huh? This is very important. Huh? Pose to pose, then timing. These two is the first thing that you have to do. Alright? Then you make sure that you do your keyframing. Okay? So once you have identified these three with character or anything to do with cameras, then you have to do staging. Right? To identify each and every transitions from one scene to another, everything is syncing well. Alright? Can see? Yeah? Then you move on to in-betweens. Okay? So in-betweens is where we'll run simultaneously with the arc. Right? Ken? Right?
Yes, sir.
After you get the arc and in-betweens, then you will do the stretch and squash. Yeah? Then you move on. I mean, you can shuffle around. Yeah? But normally this is my way of doing things. So I will do pose to pose first, get the timing, make sure the staging is correct, and then I'll do make sure the keyframes are fine. So if it's too near, it's going to be too fast. If it's too far, it's going to be too slow. Yeah? So that's where it is in linked together with timing. Yeah? Then you do your in-betweens. In-betweens is where you will do concurrently with the arc. Right? Once you do the arc and so on and so forth, then you add in the stretch and squash. Right? So before, when you're doing your stretch and squash, what do you do at the same time? Before you start an animation, what is needed? Before you start an action or any sort of motion. Sorry? That is pose to pose. So pose to pose is to identify your keyframes and your timing. But before you are doing an action, sorry? Solid drawing is, yes, that is also to define in 3D animation the silhouettes, right? The solid drawing is also important so that the camera angles and so on and so forth, it doesn't look awkward, right? But before you do that, before an action takes place, what do you have to do? Yes, you anticipate first, right? Wow. You guys are doing animation, eh? All this should come just like that. Right? Same thing. I've gone through the same phases as well. Right? There were hiccups, but along the way you have to pick up. You have to make sure that you are fluent with this. Right? And anticipation happens. Right? As the anticipation is to kickstart an action. Right? Then you have the follow-throughs. Correct? And anticipation, you stretch and squash, right? So for instance, a character is jumping or a ball is bouncing. You first have to initiate, so which is the anticipation is happening, right? Then you have stretch and squash to define the momentum taking place, like starting an engine. Yeah? So changing gear, right? So along the way it squashes first and then it stretches because it leaps, right? And you have to see the gravity. So the higher it is and so on and so forth. You have done this exercise before, right? Yeah, the same thing, same procedure, all right? And then you see the arc. So then you will see the, once you're doing your arc, adjusting your arc, what do you do? So look at my hand. You guys can see?
Not your hands.
Can see my hands? Can I? Whoop, whoop, whoop. So what do you do? Oh my God. Think, guys. Yeah. Stretch and squash, right? As you stretch and squash, what happens along this arc or the arch? Exaggeration is coming after when you're doing your cleanup process. What's happening? Can see, guys?
I can't see your hands, so
Can see it now.
no.
Yeah? Can you see my?
No, sir. Cannot see any hand. Yep, now can.
Ah.
Very small window.
Whoop. Whoop. What happens? Slow in, slow out. Right? So if this is happening, whoop, slow in and slow out is where it defines the gravitational effects. Right?
Yeah.
Ah. So, can see, right? Then you move on to, what else can you move on? Then you have your exaggeration. Okay? Then slow in, slow out, slow in, slow out is all done. You do your exaggeration, you can have your follow-throughs as well. So when you hit something, boom, you know what I mean? So that there is an aftermath, correct? You hit the face on the wall or on a pillow, right? You're not going to have that, your face is just going to be planted there. So it's going to be a bounce, right? Same goes with your hand. So when you move, see, this is where face-to-face class is for animation especially, yeah? Modeling and all that is good. Okay? For animation, you need cameras that can zoom in, zoom out, and so on and so forth, right? So in here, it's easier to explain if possible, but coronavirus, the pandemic has already killed us. So let me see how I can show you guys, okay? So as you can see here, you're not going to have I need to adjust myself, green. So you're not going to have something that is going to go like poof, like that, right? Even if you move your hand, you can see my hand, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So when you move your hand, you're not going to have like group like that, correct? So this is, even if it's a robot, it's not going to have like this, correct? So it's going to have like a follow through. So which means you will have, this is pose to pose. You will have the arc. You can see the arc. This is so difficult. But yeah.
Yes, sir, I can see it's okay.
Yeah. And then you will have the follow through. Right? So this is the stretch. So as you move, the stretch is happening. Motion blur, blah blah blah, and all that. Yeah? So when follow through means it will have the secondary action as well. So follow through is what is following through. So first the palm and followed by the fingers. Make sense? Do you need light? Is it too dark?
I can see. I don't know about the others,
Yeah, I
sir.
can see as well.
So yeah, so you move something followed by, this is where the pendulum comes in, right? You will be shown how to do a pendulum. So this is where you can do all this exercise to understand, to make sure that you are well versed with all these 12 principles. Why do you want to use it? All right? Remember, you are not doing a Disney animation here. If you can do that, will be great. All right? But what you need to do is to define all this is working well. All these principles is well versed, and you can know what to filter, what to concentrate on it, which one you need to give priorities first, rather than having everything and then making yourself too confused with by considering every single terms. That will slow you down. So you take one step at a time. Make sense? So out of these 12 principles, I need to do this first. So pose to pose, one step at a time. That's why they have this processing. Okay? So of course everyone wants to straight away start and then do a Pixar animation, full Pixar animation, definitely. Yeah? But it doesn't work that way. Yeah? Right? So just be aware of this. So once you have this follow through, after that, what else some more? Follow through, finish follow through. Then it's, I just mentioned it just now. After follow through, what did I say? Wow. I blanked off.
The stretch or motion blur, is it?
That is one. Before that. Through,
Acceleration.
uh, yeah, secondary action. Secondary action comes in, the bounces. You have secondary action. So you hit something, you bounce. You rest your hand, jump, you see? It is like a rubber hitting back. So it will come back to the position. See? Boom, boom. So secondary action, animation and all that, right? That will come at the polishing stage. You do not do in the very first beginning. It's like drawing. You do a drawing, straight away you want to have this painting super solid. If you're a fine artist, it's fine. but you are creating a motion here. When you're creating a motion, you have to define. So this is coming after. You want to define the flow, whether it's appealing or not. Appealing is one of it as well. Yeah? So how appealing is your animation from the very first beginning before you polish it. Make sense? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So all this is important for you guys. So when you see this 12 principles, why am I stressing and so on and so forth, is for you guys to define or to understand it clearly rather than beating yourself with all these 12 principles of animation, blah 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 and so on and so forth. The theory is there. I stress more on practicality. Right? So you need to know the practice, the functions of things, or the theories that's those theories that has been written and flushed out to you guys. Yeah, you can see. So instead of me talking about the theories and blah blah blah, you need to practice it. So once you have understood the bare principles of how it works, now you have to start animating it, right? So when you have this, first and foremost, you need to define whether this ball has what kind of mass, right? A volleyball as opposed to a soccer ball has a different momentum or different personality or even the mass by itself, right? So why is because it's content, right? So though you pump in air, so each one of it will have a different weight and it reacts differently as opposed to like a bowling ball. It's heavy. Why? It is rolling on the ground. Like football, it needs to float around as well. Like squash ball is much more high intense, right? Like a ping pong ball, it just bounces really fast. So define what medium or what object it is first. Okay? So here, if you want to do an animation, let's go for very basic. Yeah, you create a sphere, right? Say you want to move from right to left or left to right, it doesn't matter, right? As long as one direction that you're choosing from. So it bounces, either you can start off with, from the ground straight away popping, or you can have a ball that is bouncing into the frame, yeah, and then going out of the frame. You can do that as well. Or you can come in and then bounces and hits the wall and comes back to this container. So you can have that as well. So depending how do you want to animate. So this is the thing that you can have fun with. Right? Imagine you are in a court, squash court. There you want to try football, futsal ball, whatever ball. Alright, you want to try that in that room, for instance. So that can be something that you can work with. Yeah. So first and foremost, what do I do? So here, this is nothing control, right? So if you want to do controls, we can do it later. I'll show you how to do. So today is just for this week is just to understand. So choose the object. You press S. S is set key, right? Or you can go here. You can just highlight the entire thing that you see here in the channel box here, right? So these are the parameters, right? You all know this, right? Yeah. So the translates and so on and so forth. All this is keyable. In Maya, everything is animatable. From the expression, from the vertices, from everything can be animated. Okay? So the moment you select all these components and you press S, so it now keys, it all turns to red color here. You can see? you'll see a red dot, right? And you'll see a red bar here on the timeline. Okay, like line. So like they call it in Maya, this is one thing that is a bit more annoying because it's just one line. In other softwares, 3D animation softwares and all that, you'll have the keyframes sticker, like Flash, like animation, whatever. Alright, the 2D animation where you're using what animator is it? 2D animator. What do you use for 2D animation? Yeah. The keyframe is a bit thicker, right? Yeah. In here, it's just one line, so you have to bear with it. Yeah. The moment you see red color here, that means it's already animated. Okay. You click on any object or anything, you see red color here on the channel box, straight away animated. The keyframe has been created. Okay. Any questions? Pretty simple. Hello? Those online?
No question.
Okay. So before we move forward, okay, this is the play forward, play reverse, alright? Of course, the other tools, lah, which is pretty much simple. You know how to play with this, right? So you just play, so it plays. So there's no animation, nothing plays. You can see this. See that on the timeline? It's just playing. Right? That's one. Right. Next thing that you can see here at the bottom of this play buttons and so on and so forth, you can see icons. Okay, first thing that you want to see is the keyframes per second. Right? If you want to do 2D stop motions and so on and so forth, you can reduce the keyframes, right? Or you can increase. So normally I'll go for 24 to 30 or 25 to 30. Okay, this two is the common one that we use. Okay, so there is also 80 frames, 100 frames, 1000, depending. The reason why with high keyframes is you want to have multiple motions and you can have a slow-mo happening, so it is very smooth. Okay, and so on and so forth. So just stick with 25, the common ones, right? 25 to 30 frames. Yeah, 25 is idle. I would go for 25, right? Can 25 means then 25 per second. Yeah, you should know this by now. And then you've got this button here for looping the cycle. So which means it plays round and round and round and round again and again and again. Yeah, and you've got the, if you hover through, the what they call, the information will appear. Okay, so you can see here actually it is causing this Windows animation, right? Now normally you don't use this, right? This is for the catch files. So you do animation, it will have this catch file, so and so on and so forth. Normally we don't touch that. Leave it as it is. Yeah? If you're doing big production, then you may use it. Okay, as you move on, you'll see this, yours is not clicked on or it's not in red. The reason why is you did not turn on the auto keyframe. This is auto keyframe. As you can see here, there's a character with the cog, and this is the plus sign with a circle, right? That icon is to state it is auto keyframe. So the moment you do the initiate or you initiate a keyframe, once you have already set, the next round is just for you to move things around. See that? Automatically it creates a keyframe. Again?
Yeah.
Alright. So turn this on,
Yeah.
make your life easier. Or you can do this as well. See, the moment you set a key, next is, this is old school, huh? Those days we do this. I don't turn this on, I off this, see what happens. Okay, I turn off this auto keyframe, I drag this over, and then I have to see, it will go back to where it has been keyframed. Make sense? So if I want to do an animation manually, right, I'm not going to be dependent on the auto keyframe. This one is preference. I like to use auto keyframes, easier, makes life easier. So if I want to make sure that it goes to this point here or this location, I just press S. So S, normally when you press S, it is to set key for the entire parameters here. Be mindful, whilst with auto key, right? So if I move this forward, you see the others are remaining, only the translate Z has this red color dot here. The others are all left pink. So what it does is, auto key is only keying the components that is been moved. So which means on which parameters that you are animating, not every single thing. You understand? You guys understand, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So be mindful. To be safe, normally I'll just go pop, press S. Okay. Auto key is there to help you, but just press S. Because sometimes if you leave out the animation or the other keys by not keying it, right? So it will maintain the first information. You get what I mean? See, you want it to move like this, linear, correct? And now if I move this back, correct? So it's like boom, 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 right? On a linear line. So if let's say I move this upwards on the y-axis, see what happens now. Okay, so if let's say again undo, I'm going to do I'm going to use this auto key here. This is to show you why and how to use auto key. Alright, now before I go in further, so you do this one motion, everything is moving in one line. It's good, it's cool. Come in here, it moves back. This is fine, huh? So it's bouncing right. Alternate V is to play. Play back. Fine. You can see, huh, guys? All of you? Right?
Yeah.
It's very simple, right? So now what I do is I go to this last keyframe. I've got 3 keyframes here. Last keyframe, I just move this up. See what happens now. You know why that happens? Because I did not register the key or the parameters accordingly. I did not lock it. What I did was I animated the translate Z first all the way, yeah, then suddenly on frame 27 I have animated or keyframed translate Y, and when it states that, there is nothing here, so it reads frame 15 as empty for translate Y. Make sense? Clear?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you have to try it out and see, because I can guarantee you, you will have this issue. You will have this animation, right? You think you have keyframed everything, but you may have forgotten. So you will see something that is sliding. Yeah, if let's say a position like this, you did not plant it. So if it's the same position, it maintains the same information, it will plant or it will stick at that particular position according to the keyframed position and so on and so forth, or the location that you have done, or duration that you have got. Make sense? Yeah. If you lose it, like sometimes you'll have this suddenly, you'll move, you'll try to identify why is it floating. I just did properly, right? I'm just moving right to left, and then I just want, after this motion, when it bounces back and then it bounces, it shoots up only at after frame 15. But now I see from frame 1 to frame 27, it is just floating unnecessarily. Yeah. So this is how you should be aware of the key frame, right? So it's not a big thing. You just have to, bear in mind that you need to key certain components. Make sure if you want to hold it at the same position, copy this and then paste it at the same position, or press S. Okay. So if you happen to have or foresee this kind of issues at this point of time, you can now then, to fix it, you just have to copy the value of this, right? Translate, copy this, go back to frame 15 and paste it here. Done. Now you have fixed it. See? So that's how my. Anyone saying? Guys, you are fine? Zain, you are in? Guys, you all are okay?
Yeah.
Can
Yes, sir.
Right? So all this is pretty much straightforward. Yeah. For a newbie, when you're first time using animation tools, right? So you may get confused a little bit. You'll get frustrated. Why suddenly this is happening? Why, right? And then it goes like, this will be the hiccups, right? So make sure that you are well aware of this. Okay. So moving on forward, right? In here you can animate any of these parameters. So for instance, I want to have here visibility on, and then I'm going to reduce the visibility here off. So you see, boop, it goes missing. You can do that as well. You can also animate this even further, but let's talk about that later. Right? I will teach you how to then smoothen or sync it really well. Okay? The slow in and the slow out, blah blah blah, and all that, everything is coming in as you have already understood the theory behind and how to utilize it in the tools, like for instance the graph editor. So you have done the transitions and so on and so forth with your motion graphics. Have you done that yet? Have you touched motion graphics? Not yet. Okay, eventually you will be using After Effects, the graph editors. It's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, you will get cool motions. So all this is value driven. Right? All these animations that you can see in 3D and 2D, it's all actually value driven. So it will have its own algorithm and it will have its own calculation. So how it works is, it is using the dots or the points, or unit points, all right, as its coordinate, and then that coordinate is going to be helpful for it to stick the components at a certain position. Make sense? That's the theory behind it. So I don't want to confuse you too much, but that's the whole idea behind it, how it works. So all these coordinates with its units and all that, once it registers, it will then move on. You know how you draw with dots, right? In your old books and so on and so forth. If I want to draw an apple, or you want to draw something from your drawing book, you'll have all these dots with numbers, right? Then you try to match the dots to one dot to another. The same thing. Okay? So can I?
Yeah.
So once you have done that, okay, that's how it works, the theory behind it. So you go back this week, do whatever you want, right? Be as crazy as you can, right? So you try to figure out, and then I will explain further. Okay? Okay, now you're moving on to the character here, the icon here. Okay, this is the animation setup. See at the end here, at the bottom here. Okay, so you'll see the character icon with the cog, right? The cog wheel, right? Or the gear. So once you click on this, it will pop up these preferences, the animation preferences. In this animation preferences, make sure the frame rate, what type of frame rate that you're working on. Okay, this is to set up, yeah, on the time slider. So playback speed, do not change this. Okay, you want to go, do not go for play every frame, then it will go like this, top, 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 like robot, right? And then you can practice this, yeah, you can just click on any of this, you can try it out and see, right? Please do all the mistakes, make sure that you understand what to use, what not to use. That's how you learn technical stuff, right? So normally it is 24 frames or 30 frames times 1, the common one, playback speed. Okay, and then active, looping, blah blah blah, continuous, you can just click on this, doesn't matter. You can always come back to this, and then you can save or you can cancel it and try it out and see. Yeah, and here you can either keep it, you can either lock 200 frames in 200 frames, okay, not more than 200 frames. Some companies or some animation house that you go in, when you are given a scene, say for instance one scene is just about close up, the character is just talking, so they have already done the animatics previously, 200 frames. So you only have that 200, you have to work within the 200 frames, see what you can do. Ideally you want to have more, yes, you can add more, but some companies will lock very, straightforward. They want to have only servicing from an animator, they will lock it. Yeah, so that kind of things, so dope sheets and so on and so forth will come in. Make sense? Okay, so ticks, here you have active and blah 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 and so on and so forth. You can type any of this. Okay, tick span, do not touch it at this point of time, later we can work on this. Okay, next is, this is under time slider, alright, so ticks all, no need to, don't touch that. Okay, that's that, easy peasy, pretty straightforward, right? Okay, then you hit on the animation. Okay, this animation here, you can move or scroll down and see what you can have for this. Okay, what kind of tangent. Okay, tangent is where you have to play with. Sometimes there is smooth animation, automatically it is smooth, right? The tangents and so on and so forth will define what kind of animation or motion that you're trying to create. Sometimes you see, you will have like very sharp, like zoom, 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 like zigzags, right? So you want to have that kind of actions. Then you have to change the tangents, right? Or if you want to view the, animation, right, in very pose to pose, then you have to change the tangents to flat and so on and so forth. If it's flat, so it's flat, so pose, so frame 0, you start here. Frame 27, pop, it pops. So you can then, it depends on the animator. So you want to have that, jump straight away, or you want to see in between. You want to have the character slide from A to B and so on and so forth. So we'll dive into this even deeper as we flow. Okay. So in a nutshell, here is where you adjust all the tangents or any kind of values and so on. So further preferences is given to you, so you can always play with this. Okay? Hello?
Yeah.
right? So I'm just going to cancel this so that I don't want to have, unnecessary stuff. So let me just play. Whoop. Whoop. Okay, right. So here, if you want to off it, just highlight any of these parameters, middle mouse button, drag it to increase the values or to on and off things, like how we did it in last semester. The same thing, yeah. Right. So that's that. Next one is, if you were to delete a keyframe, you cannot press delete. You press delete, it deletes the entire object, controls and so on and so forth. In order for you to delete the motion or the keyframes, you have to first highlight. You see this gray, okay, you are sliding it, you slide it and drop it at this tick here, yeah, in front of it, not the behind, in front, like this, on your left, right hand side. On your left, it doesn't delete. In front, then you right click, you delete. Done. Okay, select the object or controls or whatever it is, right? Select which you have already keyframed, right? Make sure you slide it or you land at this particular tick here, and then right click and delete. Got it? Control Z is to undo lah, yeah. And then that's that. You can also right click, copy, not Control C, Control V, that is for graph editor. For this cannot. So copy and then come down to frame 33, right click, paste. Okay, then you can continue animation. Also faster. Okay, animate this, dropping down. See, boom. Maybe you want to move this a bit here. Boing. Okay, so if I play this, alternate V, boing, 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 and simple motion. Yeah, simple stuff. Okay, of course this is not the best animation, but just for you to play around with this and see, because you have already done the bouncing ball in 2D animation. So I don't want to harp on it too much, but I want you to apply that 2D animation in here, because you have an extra coordinate that you can work with, which is the Z. Right? That parameters was not given in 2D. In here you have the Z, which means you have the Z dot. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it works. So boom, 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 done. Right? Say for instance, I want this to be squashed. I don't want this timeline to be as long as this. Yeah. So what you can do is you hold shift, click from the first here, you see it turns out to be red, drag it around up to where you want to squash it. Say for instance, I want to have this is too far away, I want to squash this animation even further. So what do? I just squash it to frame 13. Okay. Now I have an animation which is whoa. Now it's fun, starting to have all the fun eventually. So first, normal with my classes, normally the first time will be a little technical, right? Understand it, and eventually you go like, okay, now I get it. Okay, so you all are pretty clear.
Yep.
Okay, So simple. So what you have to do now is where you start to adjust your timing, right? Alternate V to test uh, the what do you call the animation and so on and so forth. You can hold shift, click on this once. You can drag the keyframe, that specific keyframe to certain keyframes where you want it to land. Again, wait and see. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So depending on what kind of time that you want to have and so on and so forth. So this is where you right click, copy a simple animation. How long do you want it to hold? So when a ball lands or anything that is landing, it needs to register its position. Correct? Then you will have the aftermath. Correct? So when you land on the ground before you leap forward or when you're hopping, you will have this weight shift. Boom, and then jump. Boom, same like your feet. Pull your feet, you land, and then though you're sliding, it's going in, out, and so on and so forth, you have to land first. Correct? Bouncing ball is the same thing. So you'll have something that is floating above, creating the arc as it lands, dump on the floor. So it needs to land and register first. That's where the squash, the transition from weight, stretch and squash is happening. Weight shift, right? So when it lands, it needs to hold for a bit. Staging. And see? Copy this. Just have to be in front, same like delete, must be in front of the tick here, right? Or the line. Copy, go to frame 22. You don't need to have so long of a hold, but just for for demo purposes, this is how it works. I copy this, I paste it here. Next is I move back, forward. Boom. If it's going off screen, don't do the arc first. Right? So hold it and then it moves here. Out. Okay? Now go back here. Make sure you hit S. So in between here, how long or how fast it's going to move up, slow in, slow out. Or how is it going to reflect on the momentum and the inertias and so on and so forth, the gravitational influences. So this I will increase this up. So maybe this, I don't want it to bounce too far. Boom, boom. Let's play. Okay, maybe the hold is too long. I want to decrease this length of holding. I'm going to go like again. You see? Or maybe I just want to have a single frame. Okay? It doesn't need to have, depending on the weight of the or the mass it carries. If it's a fat character, if it's a heavy mass and so on and so forth, it will register further. But if it's a very lightweight, like ping pong ball and all that, it's just going to go like poof, very fast. Like a bowling ball, it's like it drops, it holds, and then it will have this. I forgot what's the name of it. Yeah, it's weight shift, but it's more so of. Once I get that word, I'll let you all know. So, anyways, it is shifting, right? So it lands, and this is where you add in your squash. See that? Again, the mistake has been done because the keyframe has not been framed properly. Can? Snap. Okay, nothing. You guys, if you select the range, if you squashed it, it will go in between. See that? You cannot choose the keyframes. Okay? Right click, snap, done. Once you snap it, it will snap. Like, this is important. Sometimes you get very frustrated when you do this. Snap it so that you can later choose the keyframes. Yeah, that is a bit annoying. You can. It's not that you cannot do anything, but if it's snapped, it's better. If not, it goes to tick milliseconds. So it will separate. It will register the keyframes at say 13, 14. It will go in between 13.5. So you cannot choose. You just snap it. So you move here, right? I'm going to press S so that I keyframe every parameters. And up here, I press S. Again, S, S. So easier, yeah? Now I play with my stretch and squash. So bump, I squash it. Boom. See? And then I stretch it. So you go here. And it breaks down to okay. So of course the position is not correct. It feels like this is weird, right? The arc is there, but the flow, the motion doesn't make sense because it has to have its own trajectory. So it needs to move at a certain direction. Yeah. So like this is bad. So what you have to do is it now shifts. It reaches down here. It comes rotating, stretching, and bam, rotate it a little bit. Now it leaps to this. Push. Example, see that? Boom, 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 boom. So here, again it shifts. So one in between, or maybe here, it's around, something like that. Or here it rotates and so on and so forth. You can see?
Yes.
So you adjust accordingly. Yeah? So I'm not going to do a perfect one. This is what you can have. One. Doop, doop, doop. Okay, pretty cool. Yeah? So this week, just to test out. So I'm not going to go in so much of things to you guys. Alright, I think this is sufficient for today. Okay? So you go back and with this. Yeah? There's so many things. I'm excited to show you guys, but it's too much for today. Yeah? So play around with this first, get to know how it works, right? So of course it's better if you have like a controller to play with. We'll dive into this even further. It's better to have a separate controller that is controlling it. So I'll talk about the parenting, the child, and so on and so forth. Which one needs to work? How does it work? How does the function is, and so on. What controls what? Okay, like here you see the pivot point is a bit off. Okay, see that? So normally what we'll do is for ball like this, we will parent this to a circle. Alright, which means that circle will then control the child. So this is technical terms. The moment I touch that, you'll get confused a little bit, alright? But you can explore on this, try exploring this week and see what you can come out with. Yeah? So first and foremost, play with this sphere, animate this and check it out, alright? If possible, try to understand, okay, if it controls this, if I put a spline or whatever it is, or you can watch YouTubes and so on and so forth. I'll share some videos so you guys can have a look at it, and then you can kind of like try to figure out, okay, what it means if there is parent, child, and so on and so forth. Right? How's the linkage is working? So if I control this and I want the other ones to maintain its motion or whatever not, which one shall I animate first? Blah blah blah. Right? First have fun, understand this, yeah. Then you can think about the others. Yeah. So this is advanced animation. So welcome to our class. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and have fun. Do not stress yourself and go nuts. Okay? Have fun meaning be as wacky as you can. Alright? I'm not expecting crazy amount of big shots or whatever not. But at the final, you want to have a quality output. Clear?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh.
Export this. Okay. Once you finish this, all right. Oh, exporting. Let me just give you a little. So once you have finished this, if you want to export this, it's very simple. You see this play blast icon here under the animation shelf, or you can go to playback, right? See this play blast, click on this, right? Start to end, play blast, playback, play blast, click on the box here, the settings, open this window, right? Make sure if you have QuickTime, great. Then you can have H264. Then the file is not too big. Okay. If you don't have H264, make sure that you go for animation. Animation is big lah. Yeah. So if you don't have QuickTime, AVI is right. Try not to do AVI output because it's very bad. The quality is very bad. Okay. H.264 is discontinued. That codec is actually the best, but unfortunately it's discontinued with the current one. Not very sure. You just download QuickTime if you don't have QuickTime on your PC, on your own machine at home. Download QuickTime, install it, automatically QuickTime will be displaying here for output. Yeah. QuickTime quality 100. Make sure the quality is 100. Alright. The scale, you can scale how big you want, or from render settings here. Okay, this is practically, how we set render settings and so on and so forth, the size of the window. So once you have already done your render settings, from render setting means it will follow render setting. Yeah. And then of course you browse it. Okay. So here don't use sequence time, uncheck that. Okay, make sure you do not check all this. Yeah. Then save file, scale 1, leave it as it is, padding just leave it as it is, quality 100, make sure that happens, and you call this as test. Yeah. So once you test, you browse it again, wherever you want, right? Say class 2020, blah blah blah. Play blast, let it play, blast. See that? This is what happens. A video is then being created. Okay? Easy peasy. So it captures what you have from that viewport. You're not rendering, it's just a play blast. Right? Rendering means it is rendering. Right? Play blast means it play blasts what you have. So if you don't want it to show wireframe and all that, so you can just uncheck it. Right? Just check this so that you can see the floor. Right? Uncheck this so that it will capture without the wireframe on. Okay? So in here you can go for shading, you can go for whichever not, right? So you can even have lighting inside here, blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. You can add all this lighting, it will capture exactly what you're seeing from the viewport as a play blast. Okay? Any questions? Pretty simple? Yeah? Can So save it, make sure you name it. Exercise means exercise 1. So this is exercise 1, or you can have it a naming convention EX underscore 1 and then your name ID. So you don't need to write a full name, just when means why, as long as I can identify who you are. Can Any questions, guys, online there? You guys are okay? Happy to be the class? Hey peeps. Hello? Hello? Sorry? Yeah, let us run. Hello? Hello guys. And hear me. Hello.
Hello.
And here?
Yeah.
How about the others? Ron? Oh. Desmond? Zane? Okay, anyways, let's move on. So this week, I'll post this here. I'll post this video later for you guys to see. So this is first week. We have done this. Have a look at it and then make sure that we try this out. Alright? So that's it for today, folks, and hopefully you test it at home.